Well, it's campaign season again, and 20-something would-be Democrat presidents are busy showcasing their socialist bona fides. And my, oh my, do they have big plans for your children's education. Free college, debt forgiveness, social justice, activism in the classroom, gender reveal parties for kindergartners, and of course, the never-ending push for mandatory, universal pre-K. Because it's not enough to convince your 5-year-olds that they were born in the wrong body, we need to start that process of transitioning in 3-year-olds. Don't let the fact that statistics show no academic boost for preschoolers give you a second thought. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the only show that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we're discussing how an American university is training faculty not to judge the quality of student papers. Plus, students sign a petition to remove the evil white stick figures from crosswalks. Racism, I kid you not. But we start with a new numbers game here, showing there is absolutely no benefit for pre-K education once you get past kindergarten.
And I've been saying this since I heard about, kids were going to be doing 4K, and then I'm like, oh, now it's 3K. I'm like, why don't you just take them from the womb, take them down another wing of the hospital and start educating, because that's where we're getting. But now we actually have some statistics, some data to back this up from the Early Childhood Research Quarterly. They're finding that their results of a randomized trial of a state pre-kindergarten program, and this program was in Tennessee, they found that the data from pre-K through third grade was obtained from state education records, and that the data, it really didn't give you anything to show that the kids who went to pre-K became more advanced or even any better whatsoever than those kids who didn't.
Well, not only did apparently initially at the end of the pre-K period, they seemed to be a little bit more adroit at certain things. But by the time you got into kindergarten and beyond, not only did they not do as well, they started to fall behind by second and third grade. And they also had many more emotional and disciplinary problems. Kids who were, you yank a 3-year-old, 2.5, 3-year-old away from mom, jam them in a strange classroom with a bunch of kids. And are you surprised that this is going to happen? You had mentioned, Katie, that maybe we ought to take them from the moment they're born and put them in the crib. I think it's even worse than that. Why not just take a pregnant mother and strap a perpetual tape recorder to her belly, right? And have it playing Das Kapital over and again, as read by Sean Penn, right?
Ooh, excellent.
Just a endless loop of Sean Penn reading Das Kapital.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
That's right.
I'm just going to do that.
You're going to do right.
I'm just gonna do that.
As opposed,
cause he can hear me, so,
right?
Hey.
Let's
get a little Das Kapital
get
going.
Get the little man. If he doesn't come out red, don't let him come out at all.
I'm going to be an elephant. All right. So again, this study was actually from the Tennessee Voluntary Pre-K Program, VPK. It's the first randomized control trial of any state pre-K program. And like you said, there is some positive achievement at the end, but it was basically reversed
immediately
and began then favoring the children who were part of the. I love it. It's always the control group.
The control group.
It means so much more when we're talking about education here, but they actually found too that. There's actual credible evidence that the effect for basically any kids prior to age six that academic instruction increases the possibility of later learning problems. So if you're taking a kid at 2, 3, 4, and up to 5 here, up to 6, they're going to have more troubles later on. And then we wonder what we have happening in our school on top of everything else that's happening, because we shove them into these classrooms way too early. They should be out playing and learning and experiencing what's around them, not being shoved into a classroom.
Playing, learning experiences. How dare you ask that for little kids? They should be transgendering, right? They should be fighting the power, and they should be learning about how wicked and evil American history is. Shame on you for reifying these patriarchal values. Here's the scientific conclusion, by the way, of this. Really actually well done. It's a very lengthy series of data points, and they did a pretty good job. They really did doing this. Here's the conclusion. The inauspicious findings of the current study offer a cautionary tale about expecting too much from state pre-K programs. The fact that the Head Start Impact Study, the only other randomized study of a contemporary publicly funded pre-K program, also found few positive effects after the pre-K year, adds further cautions. State-funded pre-K is a popular idea, but for the sake of the children and the promise of pre-K, credible evidence that a rather typical state pre-K program is not accomplishing its goals. Now, that's the mistake these poor sociologists make, that the purpose is to prepare 3- and 4-year-olds for academic achievement. It's not. It's to prepare them for life under the heel of socialist teachers' unions.
And that's when you mentioned Head Start, and we've talked about Head Start for, years. And if Head Start's not working, give them more money. Give them more money. That's what we need. Well, even they are the only other ones to have any sort of a randomized study, and they also found very few positive effects about our children and what's happening there. So do we just need more money? Is that the answer?
All right, let me put on my diaper now and pretend to be liberal college guy, right? Liberal college academic.
Yes.
Problem is not with universal pre-K. It's a problem with states like Tennessee's implementation. What we have here is a classic situation of civil war organizations, remnants of white supremacy all through the South, the land of Dixie, below the Mason-Dixon line, who are no doubt basing these observations on already harassed black babies as they attempt to go to school. This is not in any way, shape, or form the kind of sociological study we as education professors should allow to stand. Oh, I just soiled myself.
I'm sorry, I was sleeping. What? Could you repeat that?
Bedwetting liberals. I just went off on them. You go back to bed. It's okay.
Well, instead, I'm going to go to American University. Let's talk about what's happening out there. Second story today is American University is now training their faculty not to judge any students' quality of writing, because that is racist. Who needs to write good, right? Who needs write good right there?
Who needs write 'em? Me got 'em computer.
Exactly. American University. We had done a story, I don't know how many months ago. It would have been back when it first came out. I think it was in February, about how American University had this outside speaker come in. The guy's name was Asao Inu, I think, of University of Washington, Tacoma. And he came in to speak to all these faculty about advocating for students to be graded on their labor rather than their actual quality of their finished work. It's what they tried to do, not what they did.
Is there a more overtly socialist communist statement than that? Comrade, we will judge you not on your competency, but on your labor. Labor is your capital.
The labor,
right?
yeah.
And so, in a way, I believe this is pronounced, right? In a way, he is basically arguing, and this is not new, as you know. I mean, when I was a graduate student in the 1990s, this was already happening. Let's de-emphasize grammar and punctuation and syntax and all of the capitalization. Let's de-emphasize that because, it's white supremacist to argue that there's one way to write or there's correct grammar or English. And all the time we used to spend writing, let's spend it now on social justice activism. Remember the story that was in the news a couple weeks ago about a woman at her job, a young woman, who was being mentored by her boss because she couldn't write very well. She actually spelled hamster with a P, remember? Hamster. And when her boss, another woman, said to her, honey, you can't do this. This is a mistaken word. She lost it. She basically said, I learned how to write in college, she said. I've always spelled it with a P, and no one's ever corrected me. You mean, nasty boss lady. She went and got on her cell phone and had a screaming match with her mother that other people in the room heard. How dare she do this to me? And mom's response was, you should go above your boss's head. She's failing to recognize your labor in this evil quest for correctness. So it's already affecting the business world, this nonsense.
These silly millennials. Ugh, my generation. Anywho, specifically her peers, basically probably a year or two younger, are now being taught in-house at American University because they were so inspired by when that professor came that they decided this last week to actually hold another seminar, and the session was called How to Incorporate Anti-Racist Pedagogy in Your Classroom. So now in-house they're teaching their teachers, the professors, before school starts, and all of the description of it was based solely off of what Mr. Laborman did back in February. So in the description it says, participants will work together with facilitators and each other to reimagine course materials with an eye for racist practices. Participants will submit a writing assignment, prompt, rubric, and other assessment-related materials of their choosing prior to the session. Facilitators will provide feedback on these materials, opportunities to workshop them in small groups with writing experts, and models for troubleshooting when things don't go the way you plan.
And the basic point is that racism equates to achievement. right? The better you write, the more racist you are. The better you achieve, the higher your marks, the more you differentiate yourself from other kids, the more you succeed or excel, the more racist you are. It's not just that we are going to use the classroom to teach racism and our version of racism rather than skills. Skills, by definition now, are considered racist. And I go back to what I said before, hamster, right? What is a hamster? A hamster is the mouse that happens to be in your clothes closet. That's all I can, your clothes bucket, that's it, right? We're going to start redefining words for how these idiots are taught to spell them.
But they are actual hamsters, and they run in their wheels. That's exactly what they do. Now,
little robots running around. What an image that is.
Wheel. Again, basically, we didn't get exactly what was said, but we got hints based again on what I'm going to call him Mr. Labor
guy, in a way.
What he did when he was there back in February. And let's remember, he talked about how single standards for language kill our students. That's a language choice. It murders them.
It murders them.
And that grading ain't just grading. Grading ain't just grading. Again, English language. This is what we're supposed to be teaching our children. He's also the director of the Writing Center back in UW-Tacoma, which of course makes sense.
So a guy in charge of the Writing Center who basically argues writing is racist.
And because grading ain't grading.
Grading ain't grading.
All right. And white language supremacy is perpetuated in college classrooms, despite the better intentions of faculty. Maybe you actually trying to teach them to write, particularly through the practices of graded grading. And that's what he's saying, that grading writing is killing our students, and it ain't just grading. I don't understand where he's going for.
This clown pledged to lay out labor-based grading contracts, yes. Right? In other words, you show up and you work. You work in the salt mines to provide for the Soviet Politburo. You work as a good comrade, and you get grade and you get money on basis of work. Doesn't matter if work is incoherent or unintelligible. We all work here. We are workers. We are Labor Party workers. We have contract to work. Do I sound like Boris or Natasha?
I don't know. I was trying to...
Moose and squirrel. Moose and squirrel.
Yes. Moose and squirrel. Just so everyone knows, there were other workshops on that day. One you could have gone to was creating an inclusive classroom, navigating the classroom for non-white faculty and students, and faculty leadership on diversity and inclusion.
The only thing you can include in an inclusive classroom in English writing is grammar.
Yep. That's where we're at. And that's why then you have the little hamster children. Hamster children come out of the university, and they think it's a great idea to sign a petition to remove that little white stick figure from the crosswalk sign. This is just down the road at George Washington University. Yeah. This is the nation's capital, and this is what we're producing.
Yeah, but how soon before we have to get rid of that name, George Washington University?
We're already trying. Okay,
that is really offensive.
So here's how this whole thing went. It was a joke, a spoof done by Campus Reform. They sent a reporter named Ethan Kai to George Washington University purposely because it's George Washington University students who, just this last spring, 54% of them signed a petition to say that George Washington, the colonial, should be removed as being the mascot because racism. Because George Washington was that white guy and he had slaves and it was, a long, long time ago. But
he spoke in English.
He spoke in English.
He spoke beautiful English is what it was.
That's what it was.
If he'd thrown a couple ain'ts in there and a couple yo mamas, I think he might have been redeemable.
He would have been okay, but he's not. So Campus Reform said, let's see if the students this summer think that, that little white crosswalk stick figure that says, hey, it's okay and safe to go through the crosswalk now, is that racist too?
I am 100% convinced they got this from that episode of The Office where Creed complained to Michael that the bathroom was racist, the men's room was racist, and the cameraman shows over, right? And there's that white stick figure on the door of the man. Why is there a white man on the door? I guarantee you that level of stupidity is so good for Campus Reform. I think Campus Reform was surprised by this. They can't possibly be this stupid. What happens when you pair radical lack of critical thinking with radical progressive politics? The white stick figure in the crosswalk is now racist. And I guarantee you, if they had a yellow one instead of a right one, that would be anti-Asian. If there had been a black one, you wouldn't have been able to see it, which would have been the erasure of black people. You can find something
something
to complain about no matter what you do.
Okay, well, if you watch the entire video of the responses, someone brings up that, wow, it'd be kind of complicated to get all of them on there, but they do think, well, let's try and get all of them on there.
The crosswalk signs, we're trying to petition to have them changed. Some students on campus have been offended by them because it's just a picture of a white man. We're proposing that we could change them to be more representative of an inclusive environment.
That's so cute! Oh my god, yeah!
We proposed these other things so it could be more, yeah. We just didn't want to offend anyone, you know?
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So is this something you guys can get on board with?
Absolutely, yeah. Right.
Just so everyone's aware what the petition specifically said. It said, as we students cross the street, we are told by the symbol of a white man when it is okay to cross. Many students from diverse backgrounds, including individuals of color, gender fluid individuals, and LGBTQA+ individuals, feel oppressed by this. The best responses, I can see, I guess, why some students have a problem with it. I'll totally sign that. And that's so cute. Like the petition, and oh my God, that's so cute.
I would really love to see how they get across the transgender guy up there or person up there. What do you do exactly? Do you have to have a little stick figure, a non-white stick, maybe a rainbow stick figure?
But then a stick is going to be...
Who's transforming, right? The skirt blends in, right? You got to have... Now we're going to have holograms. Holograms, right? We have to have holograms here in order to be able to get across a damn street. And what would this tells us what? This tells us that these kids have been so educated in wokeness at the expense of everything else that there's probably nothing too stupid to ask them to sign a petition about that they would sign. Now, the whites of your eyes. Maybe we should have a mandatory program where all kids have the whites of their eyes colored as a way of being brought into the world through the eyes as the window of the soul, as a way of cutting back on racism. Why just blue and green and brown in terms of the actual, right? Take the whole eye and smash whiteness. Smash whiteness.
Wow.
You can get that done now. You can have your eyes tattooed. You can have those colors.
Let me go and do that.
Yeah. Go for it. But I bet you there's some moron at George Washington University who would be all for it. Hey, that's cute.
That's so lit.
That's lit.
That's another one they said. Oh my God, yeah, that's so lit.
So in other words, this is pure fashion. This is nothing more than fashion. Now you've got, it's just a fashion choice. All the fashionable people are woke. That's why Taylor Swift has come out of the closet as an ignorant airhead lefty now.
I thought you were going to say she came out of the closet for something. No. You keep up with your T-Swift knowledge. I know none of it. None of it whatsoever.
T-Swift.
Okay, then. And that's going to wrap things up for today. As always, please share this episode and subscribe to the free audio podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and everywhere else. We've made it so simple for you to do. Just visit drdukeshow.com and click on any of the platforms on the top to subscribe for free.
So simple, even a George Washington University kid can do it, maybe with a little help. And that does it for us today. Make sure you come back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time for a brand new episode of the Daily Dr. Duke Show! The Freedom Project. I'm Dr. Duke and she's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.